A dormant underwater volcano in Antarctica awakened and triggered thousands of earthquakes. The frozen continent is somewhat deceiving. While this terrain is a large mass of snow, ice, and cold, Antarctica is actually a desert, the largest in the world in fact. Despite the lack of sand, heat, and cacti, Antarctica experiences hardly any rain, meaning that we classify the icy land as a desert. Much like this desert surprise, it might also shock you to know that there are a number of volcanoes in this mysterious environment. Of course, volcanoes are active, dormant, or extinct, and these dormant volcanoes are bound to erupt again eventually. A volcano classified as dormant, sat just underwater near Antarctica, has certainly made a statement as it re-entered the scene, erupting and prompting a large string of earthquakes in 2020. From the August to the November of 2020, Antarctica saw a staggering 85,000 earthquakes. This is the strongest earthquake activity that has ever been seen in the Antarctic region. It is thought that they were the result of a small bit of a hot magma moving into the crust, according to some research delving into the bizarre event. Co-author of the study, Dr. Simone Seska, a seismologist at the GFZ German Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam, explained that we have observed intrusions like this elsewhere, though never in the Antarctic before. She stated, normally these processes occur over geologic timescales. For context, the alternative to them occurring over geologic timescales would be to happen over the course of a human's lifespan, which is, of course, what has happened in the Antarctic, since the tens of thousands of earthquakes occurred over just a few months. Seska continued, adding that we are lucky to be able to see this given the rare manner in which the timeline panned out. The earthquakes all occurred around the Orca Seamount, a volcano that sits 2,950 feet off of the sea floor, in a narrow passage at the northwestern edge of the continent. This is a region that sees the Phoenix tectonic plate and the Antarctic continental plate meet, with that of Phoenix resting below that of the Antarctic. This has caused several rifts and openings, as well as stretching some areas of the crust. For those of us who have remembered our geography classes from school, it goes without saying that the areas where tectonic plates meet are those vulnerable to earthquakes. These natural disasters occur when the plates get stuck in one way or another, resulting in high pressure until they successfully separate. In fact, due to the nature of earthquake occurrences, volcanoes erupting is one of the most common reasons behind an earthquake. The first researchers to feel the impact of these earthquakes were scientists who were stationed at the research centres on King George Island, in the Shetlands. Once the word began to spread, Seska's team, alongside much of the scientific world, began to work on this project. There is often a desire to find out more about these events. Unfortunately for us, King George Island is rather out of the way, with only 2 seismic stations being within close proximity. So these 2 stations, alongside ground stations for the Global Satellite Navigation System, are what provided the data for this research project. There may not have been masses of research perspectives available. The stations that are close by feature intuitive but most importantly sensitive technology, meaning that even the smallest tremors could be picked up and noticed. This, coupled with the research obtained by more distant but more technologically advanced stations, provided the team with a comprehensive overview of the geological processes that led to these whopping 85,000 earthquakes. With regard to the severity of these earthquakes, the highest clocked in at a magnitude of 5.9, a measurement obtained by 2 separate earthquakes. Seska explained that they believed the higher magnitude earthquakes resulted in some fractures that in turn reduced the pressure upon the magma. We are still waiting for evidence to confirm some of our predictions and theories, particularly surrounding the eruption of the volcano. Only time will tell precisely what took place in the late summer and autumn of 2020 in Antarctica. Antarctic Lake is full of life. Antarctica is known for being a place where life does not flourish. Although creatures such as penguins, seals, and krill do inhabit the barren land, most of these species do not live there year-round and migrate elsewhere to escape the totally inhospitable and brutal winter. When researchers visit, the conditions are so extreme that they must take intense precautions to prevent hypothermia, or worse. The last thing that any of these researchers expected to find was an area actually teeming with life, but that is exactly what they stumbled upon. Under an ice sheet about 3,500 feet thick lies a lake about 50 feet deep and 54 miles square. Researchers interested in studying this lake used drills and hot water to break through the layer of ice and take 15 gallons of water samples and a sediment core over 15 feet long from the dark water below. What these samples revealed surprised the researchers. Study and analysis determined that the subglacial lake was positively teeming with bacterial life, and the samples taken contained an average of 10,000 bacterial cells per milliliter. Although this number may seem paltry in comparison to the 1 million bacterial cells per milliliter in samples taken from the ocean for a totally sunless underground lake, the numbers are astonishing. The fact that there is such a relative abundance of organic matter means that the lake could very likely be supporting other, more complex life forms, which the research expedition will begin to search for soon. A nearby subglacial lake also revealed abnormally high levels of bacteria during an expedition in 2013, which further validates these more recent findings and leads researchers to theorize that the lakes were at one point connected to the larger ocean thousands of years ago and thus have remnants of carbon deposits from early photosynthesizing organisms that allow the modern-day bacteria to survive. The discovery of such a surprising abundance of life forms is important to researchers for two reasons. The first is that it gives hope and guidance to the search for extraterrestrial life forms, especially on Mars, which has evidence of dried-up underground saltwater lakes, not unlike the one uncovered in the Antarctic. The second benefit of this discovery for researchers is that it provides important information about the history of Antarctica and what that now uninhabited place might have looked like thousands of years ago. Scientists who are studying these underground lakes believe that there could be over 400 such examples scattered throughout Antarctica, and rather than a gigantic ice sheet covering the Earth's surface, the barren land is actually more like a frozen wetland with rivers and lakes as big as some of the Amazonian bodies of water. Further analysis of these subglacial lakes will continue to shed more light on what might actually be a more complex ecosystem than anyone has yet realized. The biggest earthquake in history nearly destroyed a civilization. Researchers have uncovered the most intense earthquake in the history of our planet. Over 3,800 years ago, in what is now northern Chile, an earthquake managed to hit a magnitude of 9.5. For reference, a magnitude 7 earthquake is serious and causes mass destruction, whereas a magnitude 8 earthquake is seen as catastrophic. Therefore, the notion that this earthquake reached a magnitude of 9.5 is terrifying to envision. The colossal earthquake moved enormous boulders further inland and was responsible for fearsome tsunamis forming all across the Pacific Ocean. Earthquakes in the area are incredibly unusual. There exists a minor gap in the seismic plates of South America and Nazca. This gap reveals earthquake-prone areas, yet for earthquakes to occur within these gaps is extremely rare. Since the year 1900 alone, earthquakes worldwide have taken an estimated 700,000 lives and caused billions upon billions of dollars in damages, due to both initial earthquakes as well as tsunamis that often follow them. In modernity, we have become accustomed to dealing with them in our own way, but cultures of the past had their own ideas of coping with catastrophic events. Earthquakes in Chile only happen roughly between 250 and 10,000 years, and the last of which occurred in 1877. That earthquake was measured at a devastating 8.8 magnitude. Dr. Diego Salazar of the University of Chile was the leading researcher for this project, which was difficult to analyze and track due to the limited sources of looking back into the past of our planet's geology. However, the team traced proof of ancient tsunamis in deposits of the Atacama, the driest desert on Earth. Scientists located 8 3,800-year-old sites of importance containing proof of the earthquake. One structure was toppled towards the sea, pushed by a tsunami upon the water's return to the ocean, whereas marine sediments were located on most others, even far inland. Scientists believe the tsunami brought them there. Furthermore, many rocks have proof of having been destroyed by the force of water. In 1960, the Valdivia earthquake hit the same level of magnitude, but the ancient earthquake was found to have lasted significantly longer. Evidence from the tsunamis that followed the massive earthquakes could be found in Japan, Russia, Australia and New Zealand, as well as several other countries. Some boulders traversed more than a kilometre inland from the shores. People lived on the coast of Atacama for roughly 12,000 years. The tragedy of the earthquake nearly completely shattered their civilization. Villages were abandoned and countless lives were lost. It's believed that 3/4 of village populations were trampled by the tsunamis, and no one dared return to the coasts of Chile for thousands of years. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.